Hi everyone and welcome to the tutorial. Today I'm going to be demonstrating how to work the starburst stitch. So these are examples of the starburst stitch here, and you can see that it's a decorative stitch with a really interesting appearance. We don't usually see our stitches twisting around themselves like this. But the good news is that it's actually a very easy stitch to work. And the effect is that you have these little stars or sort of daisy looking stitches that have a really nice appearance. So let's get into the tutorial. So there's just a little bit of setup to this working this stitch, and that is that we are going to create elongated stitches by wrapping our yarn twice around the needle as we knit them. Alright, so I'm going to just work across my stitches to where the first starburst stitch will be placed, which is here. And then simply as I knit this next stitch, rather than wrapping my yarn once around the needle, I'm going to wrap it twice around the needle, just like that. And then I finish knitting the stitch as normal, slipping the work stitch from the left hand needle. So now instead of having one loop on the needle for this work stitch, I have two. And we're going to do that 3 times. So I've done it once, I'm going to do it again to this stitch. So insert my right hand needle as if to knit normally, wrap the working yarn not once but twice around the right hand needle, and then slip the work stitch from the left hand needle. So that's 2, we'll just do it one more time, like so. So now I have 3 stitches, whereas I worked them, the yarn was wrapped twice around the needle. And then I'm spacing my starburst stitches 5 stitches apart. So I'm going to work 5 plain stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now I will be double wrapping the yarn for each of these stitches again. So wrap once and then twice, slip the work stitch from the left hand needle, wrap once, twice, slip the work stitch from the left hand needle, and one last time. And then we have 3 double wrap stitches. And then 5 stitches apart, 3, 4, 5. Now I'll just finish knitting this round, and I'll just show you that if you were working this stitch flat, so you're having to do your elongated stitches on your wrong side, you would go into the next stitch as if to purl, and then wrap the yarn twice around the needle, and then slip the work stitch from the left hand needle. So it's done in the same way, it's just as you're purling the stitch rather than as you're knitting it. So once again, insert the right hand needle into the next stitch as if to purl, wrap the yarn twice instead of just once, and then slip that work stitch from the needle. So we're purling rather than knitting. You can see the purl bumps down there. And then our next round or row is worked exactly the same whether you are doing this flat or in the round. So I'll just finish this round off, and then we'll come back and see how to actually work our starburst stitch. Okay, so we're up to our next row or round, and whether you're working flat or in the round, you're going to treat these stitches in exactly the same way. So I'm just knitting to where my first double wrap stitch is, and you can see it quite clearly that each of these stitches have 2 loops on the needle rather than 1. And now we're actually going to work our starburst stitch. So to do this, we're going to slip each of these stitches to our right hand needle, dropping the extra wrap so that we then only have 1 loop on the needle for each stitch. So I'll slip the first stitch, and I'm just going to insert my right hand needle into one of those loops so that when I slip it, I drop the extra loop. And you can see how that's created quite an elongated stitch. Do that again, slip the stitch, but I'm only inserting my right hand needle through one of those loops, and then I drop the other loop to just have 1 loop on the needle now. And the last time. So now instead of having 2 loops per stitch, we just have 1. So our stitches look normal, they're just quite long. Now I need to slip those stitches back to my left hand needle again without twisting them. So I'm just going to move them back like that. And now I'm going to knit these 3 stitches together through the back loops. So facing me are the front loops of the stitches, and on the other side are the back loops. So this is what I'm going to insert my right hand needle into, and I'm going to insert it into all 3 at once. So see how my right hand needle is going through all 3 of those stitches and through the back loops of all those stitches. So now we're going to knit those stitches together just like normal, just that we're going through the back loop. And I'm going to keep those stitches on my left hand needle. I'm now going to work a yarn over. So I'm sort of midway between working those stitches. I've got 1 loop now on my right hand needle. I'm going to work a yarn over, so I'm just going to wrap my yarn around the right hand needle as normal and still keep those stitches on the left hand needle. We're now going to take our right hand needle tip and go into those back loops 1 more time. Wrap the yarn around the needle as if to knit, and now we're going to slide all those work stitches off the left hand needle while we draw that final loop through those stitches. So now we have 3 loops on the right hand needle, and we've also twisted those stitches from the previous round or row, and that has actually made our starburst stitch. So let's see that again. Once again, I'm going to work to where those double wrap stitches are. And mine are 5 stitches apart, so here they are. I'm going to slip each stitch to the right hand needle, and in the process I'm going to drop one of those wraps so they just become single loops. Now I'm going to slip those stitches back to the left hand needle without twisting them. I'll take my right hand needle tip and go into the back loops of all 3 of those stitches together and knit a stitch. And then I'm going to wrap my working yarn around the right hand needle to create a yarn over. And then I'm going to insert my right hand needle into the back loops of all 3 of those stitches together again, wrap the yarn around the needle as if to knit, and then draw that loop through so that there's now 3 loops on the right hand needle, and now I can slip those work stitches from the left hand needle. So we're keeping our stitch counts consistent. Once we get rid of those double wraps, so there's only a single wrap for each stitch, we have just 3 stitches again, and then when they're worked and knit together we also end up with 3 stitches. So we keep our stitch count consistent even though we have knit those stitches together, and that's created through doing the yarn over an extra knit stitch into those 3 stitches. So we'll just see that one more time. Slip those 3 stitches, and now I just want to show you that you can speed up the process by slipping the stitches all together and then twisting your needles around so that your right hand needle is already going through the back loops of them. So rather than having slipped them and then also having to insert my right hand needle back through those back loops again, I can just do it all in one movement. And then we work our knit stitch, our yarn over, and another knit stitch, and then slip them off. So just show you that all in one movement one more time. So we slip the stitches to the right hand needle, and then we slip them all back together to the left hand needle, and then I just make sure that my right hand needle is at the back behind the left hand needle, and then it's already going through the back loops of the stitches, and I can just immediately do my knit, yarn over, and knit. After that you'll just have a couple of plain rows or rounds, and your stitch will look exactly like this once it's done. And then generally your pattern will have you staggering the starburst stitches, so the next time you come across them you'll just count a different number of stitches before you start working those elongated stitches, and then the next row around is working them together. So thank you so much for watching the tutorial. If you enjoyed it, please feel free to subscribe to the channel, and if you have any questions or comments, do leave them below.